Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Marr. I just wanted to follow up a little bit on the change we're going to have to make in the program that we were working on, the unit we were working on for perspective, because we went from hybrid to full remote. So, you guys were supposed to put your work into the slideshow and only print your slide. Make sure you're going to end up with a ton of stuff if you don't. Just change it from print all to custom and know which slide number it is and just print it. Okay? Your name will be up here too. This doesn't really matter for you on the printed copy, but your name has to be there so I can see what you did in the first steps. Now, in your first steps, you would have either on the computer drawn. I chose a different picture because I think it has more contrast than the one we were working with. We talked about this online. You would draw, this is the dining room table, and I'm following the lines of the table. You should really probably follow the lines of the room first, but they should all meet. Okay, so we know we have a vanishing point there. Now the ceiling line, the ceiling is black on this, so I thought it would be easier for you to see. This you don't have to, you can do this on the computer if you want to, using the line tool in Google Slides. Okay, so we've got enough of these that we know that's where one of our vanishing points is. The other vanishing point will be out here somewhere, and we'll know that if we follow the floor line and the ceiling line. So we've established our two vanishing points, and then we'll draw a dotted line, at least on the outsides. Well, there is not much outside here. So you know where your horizon line is, okay? What I want you to do after that is take a piece of paper. Now you're going to have to take your paper. You get it to this point, and then you print it out. So when you print it out, it's got the vanishing points on there and the horizon line. You're going to take another clean piece of paper after you've printed it, go over that, and I have a light box here that I'm using, but you could put it up to your window and do this on a sunny day, probably not at night, or maybe even your computer screen, but be very careful. It depends on what kind of computer screen you have. And lightly, particularly if it's on the computer screen, I want you to trace the parts of it that you're going to want. Okay, so I know I'm going to want this table, and I can use the ruler if necessary. This table has some thickness, goes straight up and down. Now remember, you have a choice between either doing something real or something surreal, based on a space that you take a picture of. Okay, it was going to be the school and be a surreal school probably. Now you're going to surprise me. But the key is going to be that you are going to start with something that you can identify that's real, and you're going to add to it, including the vanishing points. Including using the vanishing points for the things you add. So say I'm going to keep the structure of this room. It's got a little cap on the top of whatever that is. Must be a window. There's another window here. Now we haven't gone over ellipses yet, but I might do a little video on that. I don't want to give you too much of this at once. So that's the basic thing that I have. Now I might decide, oh well, let's say I don't like these chairs. Let's say I'm going to change this. I'm going to put that side of the room in there too. Maybe I like the round lights up here, but I'm not going to put, this is an air conditioner unit up here. So this is still at this point, and it doesn't have to be, but this is the outside edge of my picture. Before I take off the light or wherever I have it so that the light is shining through, I want to be sure that I mark my vanishing points and my horizon line. The reason for that is you're not just copying this. This is how you can, an easy way for you guys to begin to identify where an accurate vanishing point is. But once you take it off the wall, I'm not going to take it off, I'm just going to turn this off. Whoop, I think I am. I have some of the stuff I need. I would also decide where my other floor line, I have a floor line here. And if I put I didn't put the corner in, but let's say I'm going to put the corner right here. Whoops, nope, my corner wouldn't be that big because my lights are there. I should have done this before I turned the light off. But now, I could put it anywhere. But I know that if my corner of my floor was right there, the one going in the other direction, go from that corner, connect to there, and the other part of my floor would come out here. If that's the corner of my room, and that corner, actually I know that that was the corner of it right there because that little cap on the window came up into the ceiling space. So if that's my corner, I know the top of my room goes this way. Okay, somewhere in there. Okay, so once I have that, and this back leg, once the chair was in the way in the picture, so you couldn't trace it because you couldn't see it, but it would be in line with the front leg headed to that dot. Okay, now I'm going to make it my own. So I might want to add other things to it. Maybe I didn't like those chairs, but I'm going to put another chair in. If I have a chair over, I don't know, over here, let's say there was another chair there, I might decide I want my chair to be this tall, and it's going to sit on the floor out a little bit. And if I have that line, I can come out from that and determine where the other side of my chair would be. If I decide I want the seat to be here, at this level, I'm going to go from that dot to my same vanishing point that I really used in the photograph, or that was really used in the photograph. The rest of the chair, 90 degrees from this line, you'd have the other way. Remember, everything that's parallel in real life goes to the same vanishing point. So if this chair's tucked in, it's parallel with this table. The table's going to the vanishing point. It's parallel with this back wall, and that goes to this vanishing point. I know that this is a clue. The back of my chair would be where the other side of my chair would be where this back meets the leg. Go from that dot to the vanishing point. Come out here. If we decide this is how far out we want the front, then we know where the back is going to fall because we can go from where that one ends till you get to the other side and go to the vanishing point. The legs, if the leg is that tall there, if we draw a guide going this way to our vanishing point, you know this vertical is going to drop straight down. This is 2-point perspective, by the way. If we want to know where that leg that's in the distance would be, go from the bottom of that one. Now we know that. We've found the guide going this way. We can do the same thing. We'll go from the bottom of it to our dot, our vanishing point. Make a guideline, and where we drop straight down is where that leg would end. Now if we want to do something fancy on the back of the chair there, we can give it a fancy back. We can give it spindles. Okay, maybe do something fancy there. Alright. It's also the time, I'm just kind of darkening the chair. If this chair has thick legs, the side you see closest to you would go that way. The side going at the corner of it, going the other way in the corner, would go to that. And they'd look like that. Okay, and they'd all look like that. They'd use the same guideline you used to find out where the bottom of the chair was, going in both directions. And they'd all have it. Okay, this one back here too. Okay, now not everything you draw in this picture has to be perfect. I can do, I don't know, maybe there's plate full of bacon on the table. Again, we haven't done ellipses yet, but we will. And maybe they have a dog, a big dog, like a German Shepherd or something. And it's eyeing that bacon. So this little pause would be up here. But the key is, you're not going to leave it the way it was. I don't know what the dog's legs would look like. You're going to have to, you might want to research some of the stuff that you're going to put in there. But the dog was up getting the bacon off the table. And do whatever, you can make it surreal, completely surreal. You've got a list of all different ways of doing surreal in the assignment. You can make it realistic and funny. You can make it realistic and serious. You can have some sort of comment on society. It's wide open. It's wide open in terms of whatever material you want to use to do it. Although I would pick something that you can do with the amount of time you've got, because we've got less than a month of school left and you're at home, so you can judge more than I can. But whatever it is, you're going to do this sketch, right? And this is not your final. This is just the sketch. You're mapping it out. And then what you're going to do from there, I'm going to take this off of here. You're going to get your big paper. I'm trying to get this lined up so I can see it on the computer screen. And you're going to use your sketch to decide how you're going to lay it out. You want to make sure you still have your vanishing points. And you're going to figure that out here. Now, we have a vertical picture. So you can do one of two things. You can turn this paper this way, use the whole paper like our sketch, okay? And then if you were to do that, you might want to take and put some sort of scrap paper in behind here, because your vanishing points are going to be off the page, okay? This one not so much, so I'm not going to worry about that. Now, the other thing is, I want to find out, I want to think to myself of my vertical paper, how high up is that vanishing point? Okay? It's a little more than halfway. Vanishing point and guidelines, horizon line. So let's say it's right about here. Then I would draw my guideline, my horizon line. You're not going to see this in the end. This is just to help you, just for the sake of, you could extend in both directions, but because it's so close, I'm just going to put it on the edge here for the sake of speed. Okay? My other one is way out here. Now, the second thing that's going to really affect where you go from here is knowing how big to make this back wall. Because if you make your back wall huge, it's going to be so zoomed in on the corner that you're not going to have room for the dog in this end of the table. So make sure that if your back corner is, I don't know, a quarter of the page, and is it right in the middle, is it a little to the left, is it a little to the right, you want to get that figured out. So let's say it's pretty close to the middle and it's about a quarter of the page. And if my horizon line is right here, okay, here's my vanishing point. Whoops. If my horizon line is in the center, this corner, let's imagine that that corner comes down to right here, because we could follow that floor line over to here. So we want to try and line that up about the same. Okay? So maybe it's going to be this big. Okay. Now, if you decided you didn't want as much ceiling, you wanted to be looking across at it more, you could move the horizon line and the corner up. Okay? If you decided you wanted to zoom in and not see the bottom of the floor, you could make this corner bigger and it would come closer to you. But for now, let's just say you're going to do it the way you see it. Okay, we'll put this down here to be able to see for now. So this left wall, you're going to go from the bottom of your line, your corner line, to your vanishing point, and that's a guide. On the right side, it's just guide, and then here you're going to draw your floor. Same thing for the ceiling line. Wherever the top of that corner is, that's your clue. You know if you've got the top of the corner, you're going to have a ceiling up here. Everything that would be parallel in real life, so the floor on this wall and the ceiling would be parallel in real life. So we know they're going to go to the same dot. Then you're going to flip over and do the other one. And we know this one's further out, so it's going to be a little more subtle of an angle. I'm all the way over at my vanishing point, and I'm just going to have to extend this ruler a little bit to get it in there. It's parallel in real life with the floor. So we're going from the floor to the corner, using that as a point, and this is all guide, and here we're drawing out. Okay? And then you're going to do the same thing with the table. Okay? Trying to make sure you can still see everything, and the what I see is there's a time difference between when I move it and when it shows up on the screen. So hang in there with me. Say I want to draw the front of my table. Or let's draw the back of the table. The back of the table we know comes up over this line. So we're going to draw the back of the table almost straight across. Okay, it's going to come down a little bit, but not too much. All right, and we can decide where we want it. We know the corner, if you think about this corner, the corner of the table is a little bit over to the right. So let's say we're going to put the corner of our table back there. And then we're going to draw this way for that side of the table. And then we're going to go to the other dot. Here's our clue where the back of the table is. We're going from the corner to the guide. This is just guide here, or to the vanishing point. And this comes out here. It doesn't go all the way to the edge of the paper. We need to leave room for the dog. The other side of the table is going to be more dramatic because it's coming towards the vanishing point more. Come over this way. And then we can decide how far we want to make our other side. So I'm going to put my other side, I'm going to use this line. And go from that line to the dot, which is off the page at the moment, but just off the page. Okay, so this line and this line of the table are parallel with that wall. If the table was on an angle, it would be much harder to do, but because they're parallel, they go to the same vanishing points. Up and down is still always up and down. So if I'm going to draw the corner of the table here, I can decide how long I want it to be, or I can just gauge it from the sketch. And the sketch came from the photo. This corner of the table goes down here somewhere. Now, I can decide using this one or the other one, but whichever one I pick, I'm going to have a guide that goes from that point to my vanishing point. And even though there's nothing there but air, it's going to determine how long to make the one in the distance. Okay? So this table's a little different in terms of the angle than the one up on the top, but it might be better depending on what it is you're trying to draw. It gives you a little bit more space down here to have something else going on. Maybe there's a cat on the ground and it just can't reach the bacon in time to eat the dog. I don't know. So over here, we've got our height determined for the legs of the table. So we can figure out with a guide how far down this leg is going to go. Vertical, it's going to be straight up and down, and so on. So everything we add, we can add another chair, I think actually this leg should have been longer, and then they all would have been longer. Everything we add that's square or close to it, has volume, should go to the go to those two vanishing points. Okay? Now this is the one that you're going to work on and finish. These are the vanishing points that you're going to work with. And you copied them from the sketch, okay, as best you can. And that you copied from the photograph. But then you added other things. So I could add anything I want. If I wanted to add a trash can, maybe down here, I don't know. If I were going to make a trash can, I'll show you how to make an ellipse. I would start by making the top. Okay, and maybe I'm going to make the top this big. Okay, and I'm making it square even though it's going to be a round trash can. And I'll explain why. Because once you start putting things in perspective, the center isn't going to be at the halfway point. I'm going to get these out of here so it doesn't confuse anybody. Okay? So the way you figure that out is, first of all, you need to find your true center in perspective. And if you do a diagonal line through sort of a skewed rectangle, I guess you'd say, then that's going to show you where your center is. The side closer to you should be bigger than the side away from you because everything gets smaller as it gets further away. But what it also does is it tells you the center, and then you can determine, using that center point and the dot, the vanishing point, you can find where the outermost points of your circle are going to be. You would do that going in both directions. Okay? So now you can make, this is the only place that your circle is going to touch.
Please practice interruption. Any student taking a van or a bus or being picked up or walking may exit through either door. Thank you.
All right. And the curve is going to be different on different corners. Okay? So it's only going to touch here. I would do this very lightly to start until you figure it out. These are going to look very different than those corners. Okay? But it's not going to touch anywhere but on that corner. Okay? So there's your circle. If you did the same sort of trash can up here, it would be much flatter. Okay? But so now, maybe this is a stool. Okay? Let's do that. Let's make this a stool. And I'm just going to make the legs sort of arc out a little bit so it's not completely straight up and down. Okay? But let's say there's a leg here, and there's other legs on the other side. Now we're looking down on this, and part of the reason I decided to make a stool and make another one was it's going to look very different. This will probably come right off the edge, actually. It's close enough to us. We're looking right down on it. This one, less so. And then you'd have another, like maybe there's a ring down here. Could be going right off. And it's touching on the inside. Okay, and it would actually be a little bit rounder, lower. Okay, as you get closer to the horizon, your ellipse is going to flatten. So say there was a stool over here. Okay, I'm not even going to try and make them relative in size. But you could, actually. You can make them relative in size by drawing lines like this, knowing how big your top is, your top would be. So if that, it's now in the middle of the table, but if that stool was here, it would be flatter, it would be smaller. You wouldn't be looking as down on it. Okay, I should show you using the ruler, huh? Only those points are going to touch. So if there wasn't a table here, it would look like that. And as you got further away, it would be smaller and flatter. Until if it's on that line, it's tiny, and it's just a straight line practically. So if we did something like this over here, all right, well, we can do this. We're still following to the dots over there, the vanishing point, but we could make it over this way. Okay. Same deal. So you could use that for plates on the table. Figure out, there's another formula for things getting smaller as they get further from you too, but I'm not going to complicate the issue. Okay. But if there was a plate here, it would be bigger and rounder, and a plate here would be more like that and be smaller in the distance, and here bigger and rounder. I probably should have done plates instead of stools, huh? Okay. And then these, if they went down, for 2-point perspective, like assuming it was straight, it would go straight up and down here. The one closest to you would come down further, and you'd have a similar circle. And if you followed the guides here, you would have a similar circle. So you'd know how far down your back leg would go. Okay? Black and white, color. If you do black and white, do some cross-hatching or pointillism to give it some shading. If you're doing color, make sure you do a nice job, whichever medium you choose, you do the medium well. So if you're doing colored pencils, you're not going to see the white through the paper. You're going to layer and blend colors. If you're doing like a thin Sharpie, make sure you cross-hatch it and get some different shading in there. If you're doing pencil, same deal. You would want to consider all the things we've learned about from I don't know, all the elements and principles of design, focal points, movement, repetition, balance, contrast, values and shading, all the stuff we've talked about, color blending, incorporated into this design, because this is the last thing you're going to do, so it should be the strongest and show everything that you've learned. Okay? Questions? Let me know. You can always get to me on Google Classroom or with the, just email me. If it's on the weekend, the emails are better. Okay? Have a great day, and good luck with all your full remote. Bye now. Take it easy.